All right, welcome back to the Stark Contrast podcast. It is awesome to be together. Today, we are going over a topic that I'm sure has resonated with a lot of us, and that is the topic of emotions. We all deal with them, but how do we deal with them at an elite level? So let's get started.
I like the new angle, by the way. The video camera's nice.
Yeah, it's much better than using my phone.
Oh, we've even got coffee today. We've added a few dimensions to this discussion today.
Yeah, yeah, this is brand new stuff right here.
Emotions. Why is this topic? Any specific reason this topic's resonated with you?
Well, I mean, everyone deals with them. We know that. That's pretty obvious. We all deal with it differently. Some of us run a little hotter than others. Some of us are more calm. Some of us have the natural ability to remain cool under pressure. And some of us tend to explode whenever we're faced with that kind of idea. So that's really what I wanted to talk about is how do we not only remain calm but use our emotions as fuel to get better as both people and coaches and leaders.
Awesome. Let's start by I'm going to throw out this question. Do you see emotions as a positive or a negative?
I think that they're positive. I mean, we're designed to have them, so we can't say, oh, emotions don't matter. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I would say that emotions can be a roadblock, right? I mean, if you have someone who's angry all the time and they're just reacting to everything, then you have someone who's not going to be a very effective leader or coach.
So the answer is it depends, right? I mean, it's not that the emotion's good or bad, it's what we do with them.
For sure, for sure.
I love how you framed that out in terms of we can actually see them as fuel, right? So I can look at those as an opportunity and and see those emotions for what maybe they're designed to be, or I can see them as a threat, and that probably is going to impact, how I respond to whatever I'm feeling.
Yeah.
So let me throw a couple thoughts at you, and I'd love to hear what resonates with you, and maybe how do you make sense of this for your own leadership style. So the first idea, I love how you mentioned we're all wired differently. Some of us are a little bit more intellectual and internal. Some of us are a little bit more feeling and emotional. Some of us, like you said, have a higher energy level, and so we maybe run a little bit hotter. Some might be a little bit lesser. So I think that's the first idea, is this idea of being aware of just naturally where am I at, and making sure that I've got sense of that so I'm not fighting myself. So as I frame that out, how would you make sense of that for you? What does that look like for you as I describe that idea?
Well, I'm definitely higher energy than most people. And I don't know that that shows up so much in terms of my relationship as much as it shows up in my emotions. Um, I have a tendency to run a little bit hotter than other people. And I'm not saying that that's a good or bad thing. I'm just saying that that's the truth of where I'm at. And I know like some other people, they're gonna look at me and they're gonna say, "Wow, he can't. He's too hot right now. He's gotta chill out." And then there are other people who run hotter than I am, and they're like, "No, he doesn't care about this enough, or he doesn't feel those emotions enough." So I would say that like I do run hotter than most people, but I would say that I'm not I'm not super far one way or the other.
So I love how you framed you. So you run at a higher level. So maybe your RPMs that are a higher level than maybe some other people. What's too hot? Like if you say, "Well, I'm running at a higher RPM level," but there is a point where we're running too hot, right? What is? How do you know if you're too hot?
Well, I think that to begin with, it's like I can't control my emotions. I have zero control. I'm reacting to everything. I'm not responding to what I'm saying, like to what other people are saying. So if someone, say you're playing football and someone hits you after the whistle, do you maybe just shove them back? That I can understand. But if you get into the point where you're starting to fight because someone hit you a little bit late, you're running too hot. And also, if you're getting to the point where you don't care about your team anymore, it's just all about they are the enemy and I'm going to destroy them, that can get to the point where you're too hot in that as well.
Yeah. So too hot means that we're not able to, our actions aren't in alignment with our values, right? I want my actions to line up with my values. I got clarity what matters most to me. And if my actions aren't lining up with those, then I'm probably running too hot. I'm allowing some emotion to drive behavior instead of my values, right? So we know if there's a disconnect there, then if I'm running too hot, if there's a disconnect between those two, that means I'm allowing emotions to drive me instead of values or intention or purpose, right?
Yeah,
okay,
for sure.
So quick story, and then I'll move on to a second idea. So we had a pitcher, and the message from the outside can always be control your emotions, control your emotions, control your emotions. You need to be composed. And we had a resource for our guys, Bernie Holiday, very talented sports psych. He talked about this idea of energy and where is your natural energy state. And as he shared this with this pitcher, this pitcher was in the minor leagues at the time. This pitcher realized he was trying to control his energy so low that he wasn't able to perform optimally. There's this concept. There's a inverse U when it comes to energy, and we want to be at that top. If you get too much energy, we start to fall off on performance. Not enough energy, not enough performance either. So you want to find that energy level that works for you. And this pitcher realized he needed to have a higher energy level for him to perform optimally. And so he started doing things, would sprint in from the bullpen, snorting, grunting, and would get his energy level to a spot where he needed to be in order to perform optimally, which then allowed him to have a very long major league career, very successful, and it was fun to watch him grow in that. And it started with this realization of we're all different, and we need to understand emotion, to understand energy, and where do I need to be to perform optimally. And as we're talking here, too hot, performance goes down, which means our actions are not lining up with our intentions, are not lining up with our values. Make sense?
Yeah, and I think it's really important to realize, like you said, we aren't, no one's the same. Not everyone's gonna ascribe or subscribe to a certain amount of energy that's needed. You have some guys who are gonna be naturally a little bit more chill and more getting they're in their own mind, but it's not going to be very vocal. You're not going to see their emotions, but they're feeling them. But their energy levels going to be a little less. And you got guys that are a little bit hotter, that are going to show a little bit more. And I think to some coaches or to some outside observers, they're like, no, that guy can't control his emotions, when in fact he could be controlling them perfectly. It's just, it looks different for certain people because we don't want everyone to be like stormtroopers. We don't want them all to be the same.
So, and I want to come back at some point. I want to come back to this idea of controlling emotion. But before we get to that, as you're talking about, so I think something else that's important to realize on what it looks different for each of us. This idea of energy can show up external or it can show up internal, right? Mariano Rivera is out there. Do you even remember Mariano Rivera? Was he before? Do you remember him?
I have watched enough clips of Mariano Rivera to know what you're talking about.
He looks like there's nothing going on, right? But there's energy. It's just internal. It's not coming out. And so, but then you've got some other guys that maybe, and I think the closer role is an easy one to see. You've got some that are real fiery and it's more external. It's not about whether they have energy or not. So there is this element of how much energy do you need? But the other part of it is where's it directed? And sometimes people are more internal. Sometimes people are more external, and being aware of what is natural for you, how, what is that ideal state for yourself.
Yeah. And I also think that, like, you were talking about some are more internal, some are more external, but I also think that that goes for different things that you're doing. Like for me, in school, I'm going to be more internal with my energy. Whereas if I'm on the football field or if I'm doing a weightlifting meet or doing track or whatever, I'm going to show it more a little outside.
Yep.
And I think that's really important to realize. And I'm glad you brought that up.
Yep. Thank you. So that awareness piece is important. All right.
Yeah.
So the second thing I want to for us to unpack a little bit with this before we get to the controlling emotions piece. So you said we were created to feel, right? There's a reason why we have emotions. Why do you think we have emotions? What's the purpose of them?
Well, I think like obviously you feel when something's wrong, when you feel that something's wrong, you feel either angry or disappointed. And it's showing you that there needs to be a change there. Whereas if you do something uh, like you eat and it tastes good, it's a natural reward system. Say, hey, I need to eat more of that, you know. But at the same time, I think that we've also gotten to the point in society where it's like, hey, if it feels good, do it. Not necessarily. There are times where like working out doesn't feel good all the time, but you should do it to get in better shape. And that like the ends, like you need to work to be in the best shape.
So you shared two great points there. I think the first part is what's the point of emotions? They are they're a message system. They're letting us know, they're giving us feedback on whether things are going well or things are not going well. They're giving us some indication on where we might need to change behavior. They're giving us indication of how things are going. And so if we see emotions as that, not the drivers of behavior, but a messenger, an indicator. They're the lights. Like if we're looking at a dashboard, they're indicator lights to give us some signal of whether things are going well or not. Now, as you touched on, I think where we get in trouble is when we decide that they are the fuel, they're the drivers, which that's where we get back to, like we were talking about at the start, this disconnect between actions and values. Like if our actions are aligned, ideally we want our values driving us. We want our intentions driving us. And if I've got clarity of those and I'm moving towards something, now my emotions can give us some signal and some indication where we may need to adjust or not as we go forward. If I don't have clarity of those and my emotions are driving us, then we're just reacting to things.
Mm-hmm. And I think that, well, football and then also like war are two of the biggest times where you see um, actions versus reactions. You know what I mean? On the football field, your goal should be to play great and win the game, right? But you get guys getting stupid penalties, like a 15-yard or unsportsmanlike penalty because they because they just their emotions just took control of them. So they screw up and they set their team back because in the moment they weren't thinking about the end goal, which is to win the game.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point as we talk through this. So there's a famous quote about it's not the thing, it's the view we take of the thing, right? So it's not the thing that happens, it's what our view is of it. And so it's not the fact that something bad happens, it's do I then take a view of, oh, something bad happens, I'm not good, this is horrible, I've got no chance to respond and we're in trouble? Or do I see it as, hey, something bad happened, here's some adversity, now how am I going to respond to it in accordance with what my main values are, with what my main purpose is? So I love how you framed that out, that a lot of times if I haven't made sense of what matters most to me and then something bad happens, the emotion sends a message that says, hey, misalignment here, but then I allow that to drive it because I don't have clarity on the front end of what matters most to me.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, if we are losing control and allowing things to get in the way that in the end don't actually matter, then we're messing up, we're screwing up, we're costing our team, we're costing ourselves, you know. And I think that's something that I have struggled with in the past is We always joke about whenever I felt the need to yell at my teammates in Little League because I was irritated and ticked off, I would put another piece of gum in, and the game, and my jaws all jacked up. Just figure out something that will take your mind off the emotion that you're not take your mind off the emotion so much as allow yourself to play through the emotion and use it as fuel.
Yeah, don't allow the emotion to derail you, right? And that just stemmed from your mama saying, "Hey, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all," right? And so
and I couldn't help myself.
We went with that route. But I think, as you and I talked about, there was a point where that was a band-aid and it worked okay for a period of time, but it didn't solve the problem, right?
No, but it most definitely helped it heal. You know what I mean?
And I think it allowed you to get to a spot where you started to say, "Look, I don't have. Why am I getting angry because a teammate screwed up? I should see this as an opportunity to help, an opportunity to partner up, an opportunity to go alongside of someone, an opportunity to be a better leader." So that gum piece allowed you to not react and not let that emotion derive you, but then to get in alignment with your values and say, "Hey, I want to be a better leader. I can go alongside and help this teammate."
Yeah, for sure.
So we've got this the awareness piece and awareness of how am I naturally wired. We've got this understanding of what emotions really are and we were designed to feel. One other thing to hit on that on the feel piece, we can't selectively numb emotions, right? Like if I don't want to feel anger, I don't want to feel sadness, or I don't want to feel whatever else, I can't just numb those emotions. I either am numbing all emotions or I'm not numbing those emotions. So because why do we have those feelings? We have those feelings so I can also experience the opposite, the highs, right? I can experience sorrow so that I can experience joy. I experience agony so I can experience thrill. And so I think it's important for us to understand we're designed to experience a wide range of emotions, and we can't get into a spot where we start saying bad emotion or this emotion's bad, I don't want it, I'm going to try to suppress it, because ultimately what we're doing is we're suppressing all emotion. And we got to get past this idea of bad versus good emotion and see them as, no, they're indicators, they're messengers.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the issue with society as a whole today. You get people who are trying to suppress emotions, and you get some people that say, no, it's okay to feel the emotions. Yeah, it's okay to feel the emotions, but it's not okay to act purely out of those emotions.
And so I think that's where let's finish our conversation going there. You've mentioned controlling emotions a couple times. We've talked a lot about acting in alignment with our values as opposed to just having the emotions drive us. What happens when we try to control our emotions? When we try to stifle, dominate our emotions?
Well, we end up exploding at some point. It's so if you try to say, "Oh, I'm not gonna feel sad," I'm like, and then you've been trying to push down your sadness for so long, and then your girlfriend breaks up with you. All of a sudden, you've put up this dam holding back the water, and all of a sudden the water breaks the dam, and you're forced into that emotion for long periods of time. Same thing with anger. Like, I know for me, I would be like, I'm not gonna yell at my teammates today. Which not yelling at your teammates is a good thing. Let's just get that out of the way. But I'm saying I'm not gonna feel angry at all. And then at some point, whether it be end of the game, teammate makes an error, lost us the game, I'm going to explode if I'm not able to sort of use a pressure release system so that I'm not boiling up inside.
So we've got a dam, we've got a pressure release system, we got all kinds of
we are
pictures here.
We are very interesting podcaster.
Yeah, I mean, when we try to suppress things and try to not feel something, that we're fighting that, right? Instead of dancing with it, instead of navigating it, instead of feeling what we need to feel, and then being able to make an adjustment and operate in alignment with our values. Real quick sidebar, you said break up with your girlfriends, or anything that we need to talk about right now on this podcast, or?
No, I was just using examples of a bunch of kids my age have had some problems. So,
but I think your point is that, so I think here's the challenge as we talk about controlling our emotions. Typically, when we think control our emotions, we try to stifle, manipulate, fight, suppress, whatever else the emotions, which means we are missing the point of we're designed to feel, we need to feel that emotions were designed for a purpose. God created us to have those emotions for a purpose, to give us indication of things. And so ideally what we want to get to is feel what we need to feel, notice them, have really good awareness, notice them sooner rather than later, right? Sometimes it's we've suppressed, and we're not paying attention to our warning system until it's too late. So to be able to feel what we need to feel, notice things, be really in tune and notice these things, but then to be able to create some space so that I can make decisions in alignment with my values, as opposed to letting the emotion push me into something.
For sure.
So let me ask you this question. You talked about the dam, you talked about the pressure release system. I'm going to throw another picture out at you, and I'd love to hear how it resonates with you. So there's a concept when they talk about emotions, and they talk about the idea of the jockey and the horse. Mm-hmm. And so we're running this race, okay? The horse is the emotion. It's the energy, it's the fuel, it's the what you're feeling. The jockey then becomes, so how this jockey rides this horse dictates what kind of race we're going to run. If the jockey tries to really control the horse and really stifle the horse and manipulate the horse, what kind of race are we running?
You're losing.
Not good at all, right?
Yeah.
Likewise, if the jockey just says, go where you want to go, horse, I'm not trying to navigate anything, what kind of race are we running?
We are also losing, but in a whole different way. And there's a lot more. There's a lot of chaos both ways, but
right. Yeah. So the first one, we're fighting, there's tension, we're not performing optimally. The second one is we're allowing the emotion to fuel everything and drive everything. Not productive either. You might have some really high highs, but we might have some really low lows. The idea is, how do I ride with this horse? How do I dance with this horse? How do I get in sync with this horse so that the horse can run, so that we can perform optimally? As I describe that picture, what resonates with you? How does that apply to your own journey with emotions?
Well, I think that's actually a really interesting picture. I hadn't heard of it before. And that's very, very wise in terms of, I know for myself, I've been at both ends of the spectrum and still trying to figure out how to best use my emotions. Obviously it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't even happen in 17 years. Clearly, I mean, I'm still the way I am. But it's about trying to learn how to better use your emotions. You're not just going to discover one day, you're not going to wake up and say, oh, my emotions are perfectly balanced now. It's like making an offense. You're not going to be able to wake up one day and say, I've crafted the perfect offense. It's years of work and figuring out how to use each of your skill sets appropriately.
Yeah, and I think that's, as you're talking there, that reminder of, you said something about, hey, I'm not going to get angry today. Like that's not realistic. I'm not going to be sad today. I'm not going to be frustrated today. I'm not going to be whatever else. Like those are going to happen. So if I go into this idea that performance is going to be perfect, as soon as I get something different, I see it as a threat, and that's going to derail me. As opposed to this understanding, no, I'm going to go into a messy situation. There's going to be highs, there's going to be lows. I'm going to feel different things. And if I see those different feelings as indicators to let me know how we're navigating this and feel what I need to feel. But here's the thing is, how can I create space? How can I feel something, notice it, create some space so that I can respond intentionally as opposed to reacting emotionally? Clint Hurdle used to always say, hey, play with emotion, don't play emotionally, right? This idea of we're going to feel things. I need to create space so that I'm operating out of intention. What is the best way, easiest way for you to create some space? You notice something, you feel something. How do you create space so that you can then perform or that you can respond intentionally?
Well, I think it depends on what I'm doing. So, like, for example, on the football field, if I feel something and I'm getting irritated because one guy's not running to his spot again, and we have to run again, rather than yell at him, I have to do a little reset and say, "Hey, have you run to every station today?
So what's your
Have I
reset?
done it?"
That's awesome. So what
Well,
is your reset? As we talk about, that's the space is the reset. What is your reset?
I think honestly, it's as soon as I feel myself getting angry, I have to think in my head, "Hey, you're not perfect either." You know,
So I
like,
think that
yeah,
so
we should want excellence and strive for perfection, but you're not, I'm not going to be perfect. So I can't expect my teammates to be perfect, but I can't expect them to be excellent.
so that's a great one as a reminder, a saying can be a reset, right? Like I'm starting to feel irritated. I might have a mantra or a saying that I can immediately go to that allows me to respond. It might be, hey dude, you're not perfect. Right?
Yeah.
What happened? What give me a reset when you're frustrated with yourself? You've got high standards for yourself. I know that. You screw up a play. What's your reset in that situation?
Um,
When you're
what the
going
freak are
well,
you
what's your
doing, dude?
reset in that situation?
When I'm going well, it's, hey, you can't make them all. People are right. You want to talk about baseball, you fail 70% of the time, you make it in the Hall of Fame. You know, when I was playing, if I struck out, I would get so irritated because it even got to the point where my goal was just not to strike out. It was no longer to hit the ball hard. It was, crap, I'm behind in the count again, can't strike out. You know what I mean? So I think that it's when I'm going well, it's thinking you can't get them all, but
So,
you can do your best every time.
so I think that maybe that's a topic for the next podcast. A little motivational play to play great, right?
Yeah.
But I think so. But I'm hearing from you that reset of a reminder of I'm not perfect, right? And that's
Yeah.
not realistic. One other reset for us before we close here, and I can't believe you didn't say this. Well, I know why you didn't say it. It's because you fight me on it all the time. The
I
tactical
don't
breath.
do 44 breaths.
Breath. Right, but the breath is the amazing thing, both physiologically what it does, but it also gives us separation. It gives us space. It actually pauses for us to respond intentionally, right? So real quick, give us the 44 breath and then we'll give you any closing thoughts.
Right. So it's 4 in, 4 out. So it's a 4 count in, 4 count out. Right. And you're just resetting your mind to the point where it's, hey, we're okay. Everything's under control. We're good. And I think that I have gotten better at doing them, but I don't
Yeah.
consciously think about it so much anymore.
Yeah.
Because, reading a couple books on breathing through your nose, it calms you down quite a bit. So doing that 4 count through my nose has definitely helped me, although I don't like to admit it
That's fine. You keep
for
fighting me.
for some reason. I don't know why.
But I think that's the point, right? It's how do I create some space? This idea of creating some space with the emotions not driving me. So, closing thoughts. Give us what's biggest takeaway for you based on this conversation.
I would say realizing that emotions aren't the enemy. Like, emotions are a tool, and they can be a tool that's really dull sometimes, and they can irritate you, but emotions are a powerful, not only motivator, but they are also a powerful a thing to use to get better every day and to to control yourself from exploding or trying to force yourself into a box so that you're consistently I mean, we talked about consistency last week. It's all about making sure that you're not never too high, never too low, right?
Yeah, I think as we talk through this, that the highlights for me, the awareness piece of knowing how I'm naturally when I'm at my best, what's it look like,
Yeah,
and then the awareness of moment to moment, where am I at? Which is second that which leads to the second thing of emotions were designed for a specific purpose, and that's for us to be able to feel the highs and the lows, and to give us some indication of where we're at. Which that leads into the last piece of we ultimately want to respond in alignment with our values, as
for
opposed to
sure.
let the emotions drive us. And the only way I can do that is if I create some space. I notice the emotion and then I create some space. And I think a mantra can help. I think the 44 breath can help. And I'm sure there's lots of other ways that you can
Yeah.
do that. But yeah, great reminder, great conversation. Appreciate you sharing today, Coop.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for listening. Hope you all have a great day. God bless.